Recently, I had the good fortune to travel to the North Cape, a breathtaking location perched 307 metres high on the island of Magria in Norway. Often hailed as Europe's northernmost point, this site is steeped in history and natural wonder. For centuries, this has been a landmark for seafarers and explorers alike, and today we're diving deep into its fascinating past, where ancient cultures, epic migrations, and even the weather play big parts. The North Cape has an intriguing history that dates back to the Vikings. The name North Cape was bestowed upon it by a British navigator named Richard Chancellor in 1553. He was trying to find a shortcut to the Far East, but ended up naming this point instead. Not quite the sea route he was looking for, but hey, at least he got a good story out of it. The first Viking settlements appeared between 700 and 800 AD, but they were only used in the summer months. It wasn't until the 1200s that we saw the first permanent settlement take root in this far corner of the north. The indigenous Sami people have called this land home for centuries. Vikings respected their way of life, often sending their sons and daughters to live among the Sami, fostering strong cultural ties. But by the 1500s, times had changed. The Sami faced persecution under the church, as well as any Norse who still practiced paganism. Both cultures practiced some form of shamanism, which did not sit kindly with the local priests who began moving to the island. Between 1561 and 1760, about 860 people were put on trial for witchcraft in Norway, resulting in around 277 confirmed executions. However, much of the documentation from this period has been lost, with the real number of those put to the stake believed to be much higher. But it's not all doom and gloom in Europe's most northerly point. Nature here is even more captivating. Take the puffins. Every year on the 14th of April at precisely 4 AM, something called Puffin Arrival Day takes place, with up to 1 million puffins migrating to the island like clockwork, filling up the skies to nest. How they achieve this, I have no idea, but it must be quite the sight for the locals to marvel at. And it's not just birds. Reindeer are integral to Sami culture, and the island is home to thousands of reindeer every year, as Sami people make it their summer grazing grounds. They are transported via truck or boat to breed, but the newborns face dangers from gyro falcons, the largest falcon on the planet. Just imagine the size of those birds of prey if they're eating baby reindeer as a snack. Interestingly, once these animals have finished their summer feasting on shrubs and mosses, they swim back to the mainland before beginning their long march back to Finland. But it's not just animals who visit the island each year. In 1664, the Italian priest Francesco Negri reached the North Cape on foot. This journey took him over 2 years. He summed up his experience by saying, "My curiosity is now satisfied, and I can return to Denmark, and God willing, my homelands." He clearly wasn't a man of words after 24 months on the trot, but he is the first known real tourist to reach this extremity of the world. But he most certainly wasn't the last. In 1795, the French prince Louis-Philippe d'Orléans was escaping French revolutionary assassins by staying low in faraway places. Among these, the North Cape. And Louis, he made his mark as he impregnated the daughter of a nearby vicar, making a small corner of this northerly point forever French. I'll leave it to you whether that was a good or a bad thing. Bloody French. Modern tourism started with Oscar II, King of Sweden and Norway, and his epic journey to the north in 1873. His ship anchored at Hornvika Bay, and the young and fit king climbed the 1,000 steps up to the plateau itself. He famously brought with him many journalists who wrote about the barren, remote landscape which kick-started modern tourism. Notable guests include the King Rama of Siam, modern-day Thailand, in 1907. The North Cape established itself as a must-see for well-heeled travellers, and in 1956 the road was extended all the way to the Cape, and since then most people have arrived here by car or bus. Something I'm very glad for. 1,000 steps on a windswept rock is not something I'm keen on doing. The establishment of the first cruise ship company marked a turning point, opening the floodgates for tourism. Suddenly, this remote location became a bustling hub, and the once exclusive plateau was accessible to all. But if you're already planning on a visit, then the weather here is not to be underestimated, and is notoriously unpredictable. Thanks to the meeting of two weather fronts, the Norwegian Sea and the Barents Sea, this unpredictability has led to perilous conditions, with historical records indicating that up to 20% of men born on the island went missing at sea before the 1900s. Winter can bring up to 3 meters of snow, with no sunlight from late November to mid-January. But don't let that distract you. The northern lights frequently light up the skies here, sometimes for over 6 hours at a time. If you're curious about learning more about how to capture the Aurora Borealis, check out my other video explaining all you need to know. And if you're planning on a summer visit, from mid-May, the sun doesn't set for 10 weeks, creating extreme seasonal contrasts that shape the lives of those that live here. Today, the North Cape is more than just a point on a map. It's a vibrant community with a rich tapestry of cultures. But even in more recent times, it wasn't so peaceful. In the 1950s and 60s, the island was frequently visited by Norwegian and international fishermen due to unrestricted fishing caps on the surrounding seas. Young and rough fishermen on leave visited the taverns in town, and things could get heated with the unfavourable boy-to-girl ratio. Black eyes and toothless were commonplace when calling at Honningsvag, earning it the nickname Little Chicago. However, overfishing led to a decline in this, prompting a shift towards a friendlier, more sustainable community. The North Cape is not just a geographical landmark, it's a place where history, nature and culture intersect. As you stand at the edge of Europe, you can feel the weight of its past and the vibrancy of its present. Thanks for joining me on this journey to unveil the history of Europe's most northern point, and I'll see you next time.